We're watching this entire upgrade happen right before our eyes. And most people have no fucking idea. No fucking idea. Still distracted. Mark, thank you for the follow. This is where we're going. Whether you want to pay attention or not, whether you want to mock the ones that are actually studying the system, this is where it's going. People keep calling for a bear market. Okay, I'll tell you what. I believe the 4-year cycle is very close to being gone. That's what I believe. I believe once institutions come and regulations are here and these infrastructures start to utilize the tech stack, the demand flowing through these rails will be consistent on a day-to-day basis. No need for that volatile 4-year cycle. That's what I believe. We will enter out of speculation into utility, and that 4-year cycle will be over. If I'm wrong, and we do go into a bear market, if I'm wrong and it's not this cycle, but it's the next cycle, if I'm wrong, my worst case scenario is I buy the same assets that I have my conviction with at a cheaper price. That's my worst case scenario. I buy my same assets at a cheaper price. But if they're wrong, and they can't see the shift from speculation to utility, the shift from retail to institutional, if they're wrong, their worst case scenario is that they won't even be positioned. They will be watching from the sidelines. You tell me who you would rather be. God bless. Now that we've talked about who's actually in control, the BIS, the people behind the curtain, the ones that actually set the rules, it's time to, don't you think it's time to talk about what it is that they're building? Because that's the part that nobody's paying attention to. Nobody's paying attention to it. Everybody's chasing the pumps, trying to flip $100 into $1 million. The real money is the shift in the infrastructure. You ever notice how quiet the biggest moves are? And they propel the dog shit news forward? Don't you realize that? When they rebuild the systems, they don't need Twitter trends. They don't need influencers to push coins. They don't need advertisements. That's what nobody pays attention to. While retail is yelling about the success of a project from its price action, the BIS is out here actually reconstructing how the entire world is going to move value. You cannot afford to ignore compliance, interoperability, infrastructure, and standards. You can't. You can't. Compliance, interoperability, infrastructure, and standards. That's the fucking blueprint. That's the fucking blueprint. That is the language that the new financial system is being written into. And guess what? You cannot plug into this new era, this new digital era, this new financial infrastructure. You can't plug into it if you don't speak the language that it's built on. People say, I don't care about the infrastructure. What they're really saying is, I don't care about the rails that are going to carry institutional liquidity. They're not even realizing that they're opting out of the greatest transformational of wealth in the history of the world. They are opting out of the future because they are lazy in the fucking present. They don't understand that once the banks start to move on the rails, once the BIS gives that green light, once the regulations give that green light, the money's not going to flow into hype. It's going to flow into compliance. It's going to flow into the systems that are regulated, interoperable, scalable, secure, and trustworthy. They're going to flow into the ones that have been working with them for years. That is why I study this stuff. That's why I care. This is why I care about the standards. Because everybody's gambling. I'm trying to understand how the system is being rebuilt. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to figure out who's connected to it and why certain assets are designed to fit into that structure, and why some of them won't go anywhere near it. Why some of them will probably get pushed out. You think Quant just showed up out of nowhere? You think Ripple just got lucky getting licensing and working with the regulators? You think HBAR just accidentally built a governance council full of Fortune 500s? You think that was an accident? No. Nope. This is strategical planning, strategical moving. All of it is aligning with the same infrastructure, the same blueprint that the BIS has been talking about. I'm not guessing. I'm not taking a guess. I'm not taking an educated guess here. We are paying attention to the frameworks. The same frameworks that is being used by the BIS within projects like Rosalind, Agora, Dunbar. If you don't know what those are, you should fucking look it up. It might just change your life. I've done the homework. I've done the research. You think I'm getting behind? Let me tell you something. I have nothing to gain from getting behind this camera. Okay? Let me be perfectly clear with you guys. If I am right, if my theory is right, and I come up, I'm gone. I am gone. I do not make a living doing this. I don't really make much money doing this. I don't care about my social currency. I don't care about my reputation. I'm not looking to build a social media platform. If it happens, I'm gone. Not for my benefit to get behind this camera. Not for my benefit to get behind this camera. If you want to learn, then learn. If you don't and you want to make jerk-off comments, Cobb salad. Deliver it. It's not my success story that I'm propelling forward. I'm trying to bring you up with it. I'm trying to help you to grow. I'm trying to have you question things. I can't stand it when people say that they don't care about the compliance. They just want to make the money. That's how you know they fucking lost. That's how you know they fucking lost. The wealth transfer doesn't go to the loudest trader. It goes to the person who's been studying the rails while everyone else was focused on the best performing assets. Do your homework. Understand the infrastructure. Because when that liquidity moves into these rails, there's no second chances to reposition. By then, it'll already be too fucking late. And this is where most people just don't seem to care. The BIS didn't build all of these projects just for fucking fun. Nope. They're not testing anymore. They are building. They are building the rails. Every project that they've launched is another piece of the same infrastructure. The same foundation that's going to replace the outdated financial system that we've been running on for the last fucking 50 years. Doesn't matter what project you looked into. Project Rosalind was a very, very successful one. The UK sandbox, testing how CBDCs can connect directly to API layers. That's infrastructure. That's infrastructure. Hello. Don't you want to figure out who was involved with that? DLT technology. Sorry. Don't you want to figure out which one? Who? It's funny. The same utility that everyone's been mocking is now sitting inside of the fucking blueprint at the BIS. It's amazing. Compliance comes first. Interoperability second. Scalability third. Coordinated layers, they all work to plug into each other. So when I talk about XRP handling the liquidity, QNT bridging TradFi to the networks and networks to networks, XDC probably got a good shot at trade finance, HBAR securing enterprises DLTs. We're connecting the assets to the blueprints that already exist. The same structure that the BIS is rolling out to the Federal Reserve, to the European Central Bank. That is why we pay attention to it. That is why we care about standards, compliance, and infrastructure. Because that's where the system actually begins. That's where the system and the liquidity and the success actually begins. People still think that it's early. They're still building it, right? They're laying the pipes while everyone is paying attention to headlines. No. The DTCC says the proof of concept phase is over. They're done testing it. By the time, if you're not properly positioned for it, by the time you realize, you'll be staring at it. Guys, find your convictions. Do your homework. It's all in the architecture. It's all in the blueprints. It's all in the foundation. It's public information. There's nothing I'm reading that's not online. Once you start to pay attention to why the BIS is doing it, you start to realize that the world's financial system is completely reshaping. You know? And every piece of that blueprint already exists. There are DLTs out there to solve the friction points that the BIS is trying to solve. The monetary system, right? Your central banks, your CBDCs, your stable coins, your settlement assets, where the value is being issued, held. They're not trying to replace the money. They're upgrading it. The dollar, the euro, the yen, all of it's going digital. All of it is programmable. All of it is traceable. And when it's done under the BIS's supervision, when it's gone through the playbook, when it's gone through the PMFI standards, when it's gone through the ISO 222 messages and the cross-border frameworks, all of that, you'll start to realize once value starts to move the same way data moves, there's no going back. That's the foundation. That is the new money. And you have the opportunity in real time to own that infrastructure. And then we get into interoperability, right? Your Chainlink, your Quant, your Ripple. Yes, Ripple. That's where all of these come into play. That's where you see the institutional adoption from these players. No. Okay? You got all these different networks, all these different developers, all these different chains, all of these different currencies. They need a way to communicate. They need a way to transact. They need a way to plug and play into each other. You need a way to connect the private chains to the public chains. Connect the banks to the blockchains. You need a way to figure out how to connect the payment apps to the central bank digital currencies. All of it without breaking global compliance. Imagine the friction point. Imagine the problem that they've experienced for the last 50 years, and you could figure out the fucking solution. And you could figure the solution out. That is why interoperability is so important. It's not just cross-chain. No. It's cross-system. The ones that can actually build it, the ones that can actually scale, the ones that can actually survive the regulatory battlefield. That is your successful network. And then you have the application layer. That's where you start to see your settlement assets, your tokenized real-world assets, Your carbon credits, your real estate, your tokenized treasuries, tokenized deposits, tokenized sterling, your stable coins, whatever. The smart contracts that plug directly into the monetary systems. That is what the BIS is talking about with the unified ledger. It's not one coin to rule them all. Sorry if you were misled. A digital environment where money, tokenized assets, and data can all exist side by side together. One hand washes the other. Not separated, not siloed, not fragmented, but together. Built to settle value instantly, globally, without breaking global compliance. That is the infrastructure to pay attention to, because that is the biggest friction point. You thought Uber solved a friction point, was a successful company? You thought Amazon solved a friction point, was a successful company? You thought MasterCard Visa solved a friction point, was a successful company? Pay attention, because something else is coming. That is why we focus on compliance, infrastructure, interoperability, and the standards. Because when the BIS starts to actually roll out the blueprint, there's no room for a random pump and dump project. The ones who built to integrate into the structures are the ones that will carry the liquidity. Oh my God. This is so fucking massive. It's such a blessing to have this foresight for it. It almost makes you feel crazy, but it's what a blessing it is to find the ones that can actually carry the liquidity. Oh my God. That is where institutional money will flow into. The ones that are reliable, the ones that are compliant, the ones that have the scalability. Not the hype. Not the one your favorite influencer's talking about. Not the animal coins. That's where retail gets it wrong. They think that the future of this market belongs to the loudest communities or the coins that are trending. The BIS doesn't give a fuck about trends. The BIS don't give a fuck about hype. They care about the standards. The assets that built themselves from the start to fit inside of the system that the BIS is rolling out. The ones that will actually power the new digital economy. So when I say we're paying attention to the plumbing, we're paying attention to the compliance, we're paying attention to the infrastructure, we're paying attention because that's where the money is going to flow. Right now, look, if you want to say it's a trader's market, by all means, trade your coins. But if you're not positioned, if you don't even know which ones are going to be integrated into the new financial system, you'll be sitting there saying, how the fuck did I not see that? Simple. The blueprint, the BIS already wrote the blueprint. The institutions have been preparing. Aren't you paying attention to the news that's coming out? Bank of America exploring DLT. Franklin Templeton exploring DLT. BlackRock exploring DLT. Aren't you paying attention to what the institutions are doing? They are preparing for it. Because the blueprint is out there. RWAs is going to be huge. Stablecoins are going to be huge. Sure. Interoperability is going to be huge. Sure. The ones that solve a problem, the ones that solve a friction point, the ones that are being integrated in from not just your credit unions, not just your retail banks, not just your commercial banks, not just your international monetary fund, not just your central bankers, but the ones that are being integrated in from the top of the pyramid down are the ones that are worth studying. Is it not? What amazes me is that, and I'm not even talking about people outside of this market, because fuck them. Let them watch Netflix. Let them watch football. Fuck them. Fuck them. I put in the work while you were comfortable. Fuck them. But the people that were in the market, we are collectively watching institutional money start to move. We are watching the biggest financial transformation in history, and most people in this market don't even see it. They're arguing on X about price targets. They're arguing about what does next month look like? Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck what next month looks like? We know what the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years looks like. You want to talk about generational money? Not, I need money right now. Who gives a fuck? The entire foundation of global money is being rebuilt right in front of them. And they're still talking about Dogecoin? Now, I'm not just talking about traders. I want to make something very clear. I'm saying that there are a lot of people in this space, okay, that buy what other people tell them to buy, what they hear. I'm not talking about traders. I'm not even talking about people that are long-term buying the wrong thing either. I'm just talking about the average person at work or your barber. I'm talking about, I'm going to buy this because it's pumping. Somebody's coming in. Somebody came in and told me about this. There is a lot of people in crypto that don't even know what the fuck crypto is. They don't even know what it is. That's the problem in the space is look, I think there's a place for everybody in here. I think there's a place for your long-term investors. I think there's a place for your traders. I think that there's a place for people that do both. And there's something to learn from everybody. Okay? There's something to learn from everybody. But there is also a lot of people that put $100 in thinking that they're going to make $1 million. Oh my God, but I have 10 million coins of this. If maybe it just goes to $1, maybe that's the problem. Is that everyone wants the reward, but nobody wants to do their due diligence. Nobody wants to put in the work. Nobody wants to figure it out. Everybody wants freedom, but nobody wants to pay attention to how these actually work. Everyone wants to talk about generational wealth, but they don't even understand how our money in our current system actually moves. And look, I have the emotional intelligence to understand it. I get it. You know, we live in a fast-paced world, and especially in New York. Everyone wants it right now. The get-rich-quick mindset, right? It's the same mentality that keeps people poor. It's the same mentality that keeps people poor. Because while they're chasing the emotions or the what-ifs, ironically, what if? They're chasing the what-ifs. What if it goes to $1? I have 10 million coins. Institutions are chasing the infrastructure. When that liquidity shifts from retail to institutions, when those floodgates finally open, when the regulations do come, they'll be sitting there wondering why their favorite animal coin didn't pump. It's because they weren't positioned. It's because they didn't understand what we understand. They didn't do the homework. They were too busy chasing the hype to actually notice that the rules and the blueprints have changed from the top of the pyramid down. It's going to be the biggest wealth transfer. And it's not about who bought early. It's going to be about who understood early. You can't profit from a system that you don't fucking understand. Tell me that's not the truest thing you've heard tonight. You cannot profit from a system that you don't understand. You cannot ride institutional liquidity if you're holding on to the assets that can't even connect to the rails. That's why we care about standards like ISO 222. That's why we talk about interoperability. That's why we focus on compliance. That's why we focus on scalability. Because these are the requirements. And the people who don't study them are going to wake up one day and realize that they were sitting in the back of the bus and they didn't even know where the fuck the bus was going. What do you mean? What do you mean we're in Jersey? People tell me they don't care about the infrastructure? Fine. Fine. You don't respect my research, my opinion? Fine. I've done mine. That's the exact reason that they'll get left behind. You cannot ignore the foundation and expect to live in the fucking house. Am I crazy or what? How do you ignore the foundation but expect to live in the house? The ones that actually understand that, they're positioning themselves properly. That's the shift that nobody is prepared for. The shift from retail speculation to institutional utility. And somehow you still don't fucking see it? JP Morgan exploring DLT technology. Bank of America exploring DLT technology. God knows what. The BIS. The IMF. BlackRock. Vanguard. State Street exploring DLT technology. A lot of them are RWAs. A lot of them stablecoins. Is that utility or is that speculation? If you don't see it, it's probably because you're still looking at the wrong fucking part of the system. You're looking at the exciting part. It's here. It's here. It's absolutely here. And if you can see where to look, you'll position yourself. It's doing yourself a favor. I don't give a fuck if you do it or not. Listen to me or don't listen to me. I don't give a fuck. This ain't for my benefit. I'm not behind the camera because I'm making money doing this. I've never accepted a fucking dollar from any network. I don't get paid for this. People want to donate. I thank you so much. Don't think that I don't appreciate it, but by no means is this a living. I'm not doing this for a living. I do this because I want people to grow. It's as simple as that. I want to share my viewpoints. I want to share my experience, my beliefs. If you believe what I believe, then great. Welcome. I hope that you challenge me to view things differently, and I hope that I can challenge you to view things differently. If you don't see what I see, then by all means, brother, do your homework. I wish you the absolute best. There's nobody in this market that I hope doesn't succeed. I hope everybody succeeds. Because the truth is, if you're in crypto, while 99% of the population, 90% of the population doesn't even know what the fuck it is, you deserve to win because you got into something early. I don't have any ill will for anybody in here, and there's a couple of people in the comments that I see. I don't wish anything bad on those people. I don't. I want everyone to win. But the truth is, and look, I don't care if you like me or not. I don't give a fuck. I'm very comfortable being disliked. I've had enemies all of my life. I don't give a fuck. You want to know why people dislike me? Because I say what the fuck I think. I'm not a yes man. I don't nod my head to something that I don't believe in. And if I believe that somebody's looking at the wrong thing and they're distracted, I'm going to say you're fucking distracted. How you want to deal with that as a man or as a full adult, that is your prerogative. That's your responsibility to control your own emotions and your viewpoint of it. But if I believe you're distracted, I'm going to say I think you're fucking distracted. And it's not me being a dick. It's just me saying what I believe in and what I think. I'm wise enough to know that truth is a matter of perspective for each and own, and I stand true in my own truth. Like it or love it, I don't give a fuck. You don't like me? There's a long line. Take a ticket, motherfucker. I believe in long term. I believe in utility. I don't believe in the retail hype. Like it or love it, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say what I think. And obviously, the same people that keep coming back probably see the same thing that I see. Maybe that's why people listen to me. I don't know. Maybe they like the New York sense of humor. I don't know. I don't know why people listen to me. But I say what I fucking think. And what I think is that the BIS, you're never going to see the headlines. You're never going to see it on the news. All of it is happening quietly. It's all happening in boardrooms. It's in the pilots. It's in the sandboxes. All of that. It's happening without people talking about it on X. Look at Swift, right? They didn't disappear when blockchain showed up. They partnered with Chainlink, testing cross-chain settlement for tokenized assets. That's the legacy system upgrading itself. Not dying. They'll be damned if they're going to be the Blockbusters. They're going to be damned if they're going to be the Toys R Us. Look at the DTCC. They settle almost about every single trade on Wall Street. And they're already tokenizing parts of their clearing progress. Trillions of dollars moving through DLT rails under institutional custody. Nobody's tweeting about that, but that's utility. Ripple isn't just sending payments anymore, positioning themselves to be a full tech stack, a full financial tech stack. Liquidity, custody, treasury, even tokenization, wallets, all of it. They're building pieces of the interoperability layer that the BIS wants standardized, that the BIS wants acceptable. Look at Quant. Quant sits above all of it. They connect public and private networks, traditional finance to blockchain, so that the central bankers can actually communicate to them. Think about how big that could be. HBAR. One of the great things about HBAR is their governance council. The institutions need to trust the tech. And what better institutions to trust than some of the top Fortune 500s? XDC, let's not forget about XDC. Oh my God, trade finance. Global commerce. How big is that? You think global commerce is going to go down year over year? It's not a coincidence that some of these assets are designed to fit so perfectly within the BIS's blueprint. It's not a coincidence. Everyone's arguing about what's the next Bitcoin. The BIS and its partners were deciding which rails could and would power the next century of global finance. Retail adoption's fucking noisy. It's clanky. It's kind of a fucking mess. Institutional adoption is silent, but it's coordinated. It's orchestrated. It's manipulated. They figured it the fuck out. Institutions don't announce when they're positioning. They don't. They're just building it. They're not chasing the hype. They're literally building the fucking infrastructure that is compliant, that's scalable, that has interoperability. Don't you think that's important? So when I say institutional money is coming in, when I believe that 4-year cycle is kind of on its fucking last legs, I'm looking at the proof. That's all I can do. The banks are onboarding to the digital networks. The custodians are tokenizing real-world assets. The regulators are finalizing the rule books. The entire financial system is upgrading itself. And the ones who can't see it are the ones who are watching the charts, the ones who are listening to their fucking barber of what they're going to buy. Those are the ones who can't see it. I'm not saying don't pay attention to the charts. I think it's relevant. I think it's important. But if that's your main priority, if that's the number one thing you care, if you're measuring the success of a project by its price action, you can't see what's coming. That is why we pay attention to what we pay attention to. Because by the time the shift becomes obvious, it'll be too fucking late. If you're not positioned, it'll be too fucking late. The rails are going to be live. The liquidity is going to be flowing. The narrative is going to shift from crypto's too risky to crypto is the fucking system. Been ranting for almost an hour and a half. But I want to paint the picture. I want to complete this thought process. It's fucking what a thought. We started with the question of who controls the system. We found the answer. It's the fucking BIS. And then we followed the trail of what they're building. The blueprint, the standards, the pilots, the interoperability layers. And now we're sitting here watching it unfold in real time, watching the biggest traditional financial players adopting it, while most of the world doesn't even think that it's happening. That's why I say this space is shifting out of speculation to utility. It's not about hype anymore. It's about understanding the architecture, because the blueprint is going to be what the next 100 years runs on. The blueprint is going to show you exactly where the institutional money is going to flow before it happens. It shows you what assets are compliant, which ones are actually connected to the system, and which ones are built to last, which ones can survive. The assets that are aligned with this new system, the ones that are built from day one around compliance, around interoperability, around the standards, those are the ones that the institutions are going to trust. And that is where the liquidity is heading. That is where the value will settle. And the ones that understand that, the ones that are studying the BIS projects, the ISO 222 integration, RWAs, they're not chasing the fucking price. They're positioning themselves for that shift from retail liquidity to institutional liquidity. And that they understand by the time this new system is live, the opportunity to get positioned, to get in early enough, it'll be gone. It'll be fucking gone. Because this market, guys, crypto's not about fucking speculation anymore. It's about integration. Where you're watching every single level of finance, from the banks to the payment rails to the clearinghouses, move on to DLT technology. Don't you think you want to figure out which ones they're going to use? Don't you think that's important to figure out? The BIS wrote the blueprint, and now the entire world is following it. So yeah, ignore the infrastructure if you want to. Laugh at the compliance. Ignore the interoperability. Pretend that the standards don't actually matter. Pretend some of these assets don't actually survive within the ecosystems. But once institutional liquidity moves through those rails, it won't matter whether or not you believed it. What will matter is whether or not you were able to see it. The ones who did the homeworks, the ones who studied the blueprints, those are the ones that are going to be ready. Because while everyone else was gambling, they were fucking preparing. While everyone else was chasing hype and listening to what their fucking barber told them to buy, they were the ones who were learning how the real world actually works. That's the entire point of this rant. You don't want to be... You don't win this game by being first. You win it by understanding the foundation. You win it by positioning yourself properly. That's what gives you the conviction when the market is being loud about one particular project's return, one project's charts. That's what separates investors from gamblers. So, yeah, we study the compliance. Yeah, we study the interoperability. Yeah, we study the infrastructure. Yeah, we study the standards. Because that is the future. That is the revolution. And once the headlines come out, once the dust settles, and liquidity starts to move on the rails, everything we know will change. That's when people will realize that the long-term investors, the utility maxis, they weren't just buying into fucking narratives. They weren't just guessing. They were reading the fucking blueprints.